Okay, over the last couple of weeks, then there have been quite a number of hit pieces in the mainstream press. So, just wanted to cover this. This is hit pieces on people that are active against lockdown and other issues. Let's have a look. Here's the Guardian. I was wrong. How COVID conspiracies became a gateway to extreme views. This is by Ben Quinn in the Guardian. Nearly 3 years on from the start of the pandemic in Britain, however, there was a stark reminder of the continuing reach of conspiracy theories on Wednesday when Tory MP Andrew Bridgen lost the party whip after comparing the use of COVID vaccines to the Holocaust. Not sure that's what he did, but that's what the Guardian claims. Lewis's journey away from the beliefs that once enveloped his life meanwhile stands in contrast to others for whom COVID-19 conspiracy theories have acted as a gateway drug to other more extreme views. So let's have a look at who they're talking about. Over the past several years, particularly during COVID, we've seen an increasing hybridization of extremist and hate movements and conspiracy theorists, said Tim Squirrel, head of communications at the Institute of Strategic Dialogue. Networks built over the pandemic have not gone away. We are still seeing so-called sovereign citizens seeking to shut down vaccination clinics with pseudo-legal arguments and accusations of crimes against humanity. But we're also seeing people who came to prominence during the pandemic moving on to different issues, taking their audiences with them. Save Our Rights UK comes for attack here. So that's one of the organisations. But I thought it was particularly interesting that they decided to go for the Hope Community Hub, the Hope Sussex, that's Katie Jo Murphin's organisation. In another area, they say some who were at the forefront of anti-vax activism and fomenting conspiracy theories have been pouring their energies into homeschooling. Naughty people, Brian.
Well, of course, it is very dangerous for this state because if you home educate and your children are brought up with the truth and access to proper facts and data, that is a huge threat to this government, which is ruled by lies, deceit and propaganda. So the government is frightened.
But it doesn't end there. Here's the Times. Death threats as lies spread about Oxford traffic lockdown. And they say councillors in Oxford have been receiving death threats after a conspiracy theory about a scheme to reduce traffic in the city spread around the world. Their offices are fielding thousands of calls, emails, letters, and social media messages from people angry at authorities for plotting a, quote, lockdown to combat climate change and prevent residents from leaving zones dividing the city.
I was just going to add that, just remember earlier on in the news, we are showing that the British Army is working on climate change. So,
yes.
Yeah.
But anyway, here's the BBC's coverage of the same thing. Oxford residents dubbed guinea pigs over traffic policy. A trial scheme to reduce car traffic in central Oxford, because it's only just a trial scheme to reduce traffic in the centre of the city. Don't worry about it, Brian. It's nothing to worry about. Has drawn the ire of activists promoting conspiracy theories online. But why exactly? Oxford residents may have been surprised when they opened their post boxes in the last week. Hello Guinea Pig, said a leaflet delivered to many homes across the city. It appeared to be decorated with the Oxford coat of arms, but instead of depicting an ox crossing a river at the centre, this version showed a guinea pig instead. And of course, what's this about? It's about the activist group Not Our Future. We highlighted the Oxford event before Christmas, and then we mentioned the date of it as it was coming up in January. And of course, many people turned up in Oxford to deliver leaflets around the place. But Oxford City Council, Oxfordshire County Council, not very happy about it. But anyway, the BBC goes on to say that the scheme was also wrongly linked to a separate council proposal to ensure that every Oxford resident has shops, healthcare and parks within a 15-minute walk of their home. The concept was dubbed 15-minute neighbourhoods, and for many of the users sharing these distortions online, it was part of a sinister plan to limit people's freedom of movement. For its part, Not Our Future claims its mission is to fight for the survival of our way of life as we know it. But references to common conspiratorial tropes can also be found on the group's website and social media accounts. This is so pathetic, but anyway, including baseless claims about COVID-19, the World Economic Forum, and climate change. So this is typical of the types of attacks that we've been seeing in the mainstream press over the last couple of weeks. It's a bit sad, but I just wanted to also end this little segment with this article from Cornwall Live. Protesters in Cornwall take to streets to defend the right to strike. These are people holding up RMT banners and so on. And really what I wanted to comment here, Brian, was how few there are out. And really, I think we need to see many, many more people out actually getting their views across and communicating with people than this.
Well, this is, of course, why we're always encouraging people to share our material and talk to other people and spread the word. It's spreading the message and the facts, which is the key thing. But the BBC, I'm going to suggest, also desperate because they know that they've now got to be proactive in trying to crush anybody who's now telling the truth about these World Economic Forum globalist agendas. And of course, it's either coming in from the World Economic Forum or the UN or UNESCO, in the case of the education for children. And this is fact. So the BBC, desperate.
Related, Alex, Mariana Spring.
Yes, the BBC, who panic watch and hate watch us, as we know they do at managerial level, should perhaps be asking themselves why defection is only ever one way, from their persuasion to ours, and often directly from their organisation to ours. But that is the trend, and here is a BBC source who has emailed us regarding Mariana Spring, the queen of BBC anti-disinformation. The source says you were talking before Christmas about the BBC's wondrous Mariana Spring. I worked at the BBC for many years until the end of 2021, now a UK column viewer. Doesn't happen the other way around, does it? I vaguely remember Mariana's unusually jolly name cropping up at the start of the pandemic. I assumed she was one of the members of the reality check team, which long predates Mariana Spring. The source adds, this team was set up around 2017, 2018 to tackle fake news, as it was called, under the then head of news, James Harding. We've reported on him before. We used to comment on how well-staffed and well-funded this team was, while other teams were increasingly stretched. Of course, I know why now, says the source. The source ends, excuse the pun, but Mariana did rather spring from nowhere. I've never seen someone so young land a network TV reporter job. It's really not the norm, and I can only assume there must be other forces behind her meteoric rise to the fore.